All right, welcome to the Krug Show. I got back in my studio. I've digested all that Kyle Shanahan has said at his press conference. It is officially on to Philly. It is Eagles week. We'll talk a little Seahawks. We'll talk a little Niners. We'll talk a little Shanahan. Get a lot of interesting stuff. We'll tell you who's out for the year, whose practice windows open. It's all straight ahead. All right, welcome to the Krug Show. Welcome to Monday, January the 5th. Woo! Shanahan just spoke. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle, the title sponsor of the Krug Show. Check them out. They're in Emeryville. They're in Corte Madera. They're soon to open in Petaluma. Thanks to Damon and Mary, the owners of Pig and a Pickle, for being the title sponsor of the Krug Show. And we appreciate them. Thanks to Sleeper. Thanks to Habbas Law. Thanks to Clawdaddy Arcades, courtesy of Clawdaddy Arcades. The Krug Show road trip begins on Friday as we go to Philly. Kev and I go boots on the ground. That's right. Getting on the bird, going to Philly. Going to watch the Niners do whatever they're going to do in the playoffs in Philadelphia. We'll get a Philly cheesesteak. We'll do a ton of videos. We'll be hanging out. If John Chapman has a big party on Saturday, we will be there. I'm still kind of, as you can see, I'm still kind of nasally and dribbling, and oh my gosh. But thanks to Clawdaddy Arcades. Clawdaddy Arcades is our sponsor who is sending us to Philly. So we appreciate them greatly. 7 locations at Clawdaddy Arcades Empire throughout California. They've got locations in San Diego, Los Angeles, Palmdale, Visalia, Fresno, Modesto, and Capitola. So thanks to Clawdaddy Arcades. But let's get right to the news of the day, which is Kyle Shanahan has spoken, and he had a lot to say. There was a lot of interesting things that came out of the Shanahan presser. So as far as what's first, second, third, it's always hard to say. Well, let's just go right down the list. Maybe we'll just go down the list of what he said in order of how he said it. The first order of business is always the injuries. And he gave us the full injury rundown, and it's, as you can imagine, extensive. Tatum Bethune, D. Winters, Ricky Pearsall, Trent Williams, Luke Gifford, Keon White, Jair Brown. Tatum Bethune is done for the year. Bye-bye, Tatum Bethune. Torn groin. My opinion is he's likely headed to surgery. He's definitely out for the year. And so that's it for Tatum Bethune. And we tip our cap to Tatum Bethune because he's a really good football player, violent football player, leaves it all out of the field, got hurt a ton of different ways this year, all in the name of playing the way he wants to play, which is fast and violent. So they lose a really good football player. And this defense needs to add good football players, not subtract them. So that's not a good thing. Now, the rest of these guys, Winters, Pearsall, Gifford, Trent Williams, Keon White, Jair Brown, Shanahan had different labels for like their status, but it's basically all some guys he termed as day-to-day. These guys are all basically, banged up, and whether they go or not on Sunday is kind of 50-50. Winters, Pearsall, Gifford, Trent Williams, Keon White, Jair Brown. I think Trent Williams probably gets out there. Pearsall, I think, is probably going to get out there. But as far as D. Winters, I don't know because, his injuries might be a little more severe. Shanahan said that he is confident in the veteran Eric Kendricks if, Kendricks is going to be the guy. I mean, it's just simple as that. He's got limitations as a pass coverage guy, but, he could do it on first and second down. He's been there before. He's long in the tooth, but he's got the experience, so we'll see. He's gonna get the run. Curtis Robinson's gonna be active this week, and that should help. Maybe Jalen Graham. I don't know what they're pretty much running out of guys at this point. Fred Warner. He was asked about the Fred Warner return. I mean, they're just why even talk about that? That's just why even bother talking about that? we're talking about a guy who maybe could come back in the NFC Championship game. You got so much work to do between now and then. And Shanahan was like, yeah, his return is too far off to get into any kind of specifics or timelines or anything like that. So no timelines on Fred. Not to be a downer, but I mean, this team's got to win big games, on the road against really good teams before they can talk about Fred Warner coming back to save them. So it's a kind of a dumb conversation at this point, and the Niners aren't going to have it. As far as Brock Purdy, he is a full go. So he got smoked at the end of the game. He took a really hard hit, got hit high and low at the same time. Kind of got the old sandwich, hit, which is never good. But Shanahan said he's good. He's a full go. So there you go. Purdy's not on the injured list, despite the fact he got clocked. Shanahan says Philadelphia's got a Super Bowl caliber defense. Good rush, tight coverage. Lauded them for their defense. When he was asked about the Niners' missed tackles, and the question was, hey, you guys have played 3 games in 13 days. Are your guys tired, basically? And is that why they missed 18 tackles? And the answer is clearly yes. That is the reason. But Shanahan, it says on the wall, no excuses. You know what I mean? So that's what he said. He said no excuses. Then he said a few other things, and then he said 18 is way too many, and it just is. I mean, you got to make better. You got to tackle better. You can't have 18 missed tackles and win. Not typically. And they had 18 missed tackles, and of course they didn't win. He said he wasn't sure if Nick Martin was in or out of the the concussion protocol. It just seems like they've turned off the Nick Martin switch. Like, they weren't rushing him back. They weren't trying to get him ready. It just seemed like they had decided long ago that he wasn't for them. They weren't for him. Whatever. I don't know. I'd love to know. I'd love to know the real reason why that kid sat all year, because he sat all year. And when he did play, he played 14 snaps. He had 7 tackles in 14 snaps. And he was probably the most impressive. He probably is the most impressive physical athlete on the entire team. And yet he sat all year, and now they're late in the year. They badly need linebackers. Matt Barrows pointed out that I guess he needs to sit out 1 more week before he could be called off the IR. But you could kind of tell by the way that Shanahan answered the question, is like, they're not going to him. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but it doesn't seem like they're going to him. It didn't seem like he was part of his thinking at all. So I'd love to know the backstory. There's got to be a backstory. This guy either MF'd the wrong person or said something, did something, that didn't do something, can't do something. I mean, there's some backstory as to why Nick Martin sat all year while simultaneously being this badass, unbelievable athlete who's got, unbelievable speed and strength. And he made, there's a backstory. That's all I got to say. I don't know what it is, but there is one. There's no doubt in my mind. There's something. This guy either didn't learn it, couldn't learn it, didn't do it, said the wrong thing to the wrong guy. Something. There's something there. There's a story there. I don't know what the story is, but there is a story there. Shanahan said Jacob Cowing's practice window is open and he'll practice on Wednesday. So, training staff be on the ready. No, that's probably not fair, but the kid's had hamstring injuries beyond belief. He was a good player in college. I thought he was going to be a good Niner. He's been nothing but hurt. But I'll tell you, he's got talent. I mean, this kid has talent. I'm talking about the ability to separate down the field and make catches and make big plays. I saw it. I've seen him do it at 2 different schools, in 2 different programs, in 2 different offenses. This kid can play. It's just a matter of, can they get him out there? Can he stay healthy? You got to be available. He's got hamstring pulls for days. But I'm telling you, this is a good football player. Same with Jordan Watkins. Jordan Watkins is a good football player. These guys are going to produce in the NFL at some point. Hopefully it's here. Hopefully it's soon. Cowing's practice window opens Wednesday. Thursday, all bets are off. But Wednesday, he will be there. Thursday, he could be out. The Shanahan said the offensive tackles broke down a little on that last third down. I think that's kind of putting it mildly. They got kind of steamrolled. But he also said, "Hey, look, the tackles, McKivitz and Pleasance had good snaps in the game, and there were times where they kept, the rushers off of Purdy, and there wasn't enough time to throw, and so it wasn't like it was just like they were just universally bad across the board. They had a couple bad snaps, including that last third down, especially Pleasance. He just, he kind of the guy basically went into Pleasance, created the pop, and then used it to get around him and went by him, kind of like a turnstile, just boop, right by him to the quarterback. Purdy took the big hit. You can't have that. So that was bad. But overall, I wouldn't give those guys, Fs or anything. I think I'd give them more like, a solid C or maybe even a C plus overall. They didn't win the game. The offensive line got burned. It wasn't like the Seattle D-line didn't win. Seattle D-line did win. So you can't give the O-line too much credit. But as far as when you watch that film, there are worse films of the offensive tackles than I saw in this game. I've seen offensive tackles get worked a whole lot worse than this. So I was kind of pleasantly surprised, no pun intended, about Austin Pleasance. Shanahan also added that, hey, we can play cleaner football. They made mistakes. They didn't do what they wanted to do. There's no question. He thinks they can play cleaner. And then he finished on a very high note by, praising Upton Stout, who was awesome, man. I mean, I thought he was awesome when I watched the game, but when I watched it again, and then went back to the all-22 on about 5 or 10 plays that I wanted to really look closely at, this guy, wow. I mean, he's not even 100%. He was in the concussion protocol the week prior. He played like it was the biggest game of his life, and he had to win. I mean, that's what I want in a defensive player. I want guys who play like they have to win. I mean, this guy's just raw. It's awesome. His emotion, his violence. I mean, Shanahan called it his best game of the year. Said he had an awesome game. When you watch that film, it's like you see that Upton Stout was like on a mission. He is everything you want except for height. I mean, the guy's 5'8", but he's smart as hell. He competes like nobody else. He's violent. I mean, him and Mustafa are absolute keepers. They're both the exact same thing. Really smart, really competitive, really violent, want to hit, seek and destroy, but seek and destroy with real instincts of how to play and what to do when. I mean, they're just really good football players. Stout, easily 49ers Rookie of the Year, in my mind. The way he has taken his game. Alfred Collins has been really good. CJ West has been really good. There's been some good players for sure. But the way Stout has, started immediately, played all year, toughest position on defense to play, playing it well, had some ups and downs. It's not like it's been perfect, but he's made big plays. And he fights, and he competes, and he hits. And it means a lot to him. Those are the guys you want. That's what you're looking for. That was a great draft choice. 5'8" corner in the third round. And you're probably sitting there going, no, 5'8" corner? This guy has been terrific. In the run game, he'll hit you. In the pass game, he'll hit you. He'll cover you. He'll break on the ball. He's going to get nothing but better. When they have a pass rush in a year, when they build up their pass rush and get Bosa healthy and rebuild their defensive front, how good is that kid going to be then? He's going to be jumping passes. He's going to be a Pro Bowler. That was a great pick. Great pick, Upton Stout. So there you go. That was the Shanahan breakdown on the day. Let's hit a couple of these supers here. We got this one from J-Lo, 1725. Kyle needs to be creative and have 2 tight ends, 12 personnel, and have Tonjes play meaningful snaps. Who's Tonjes, this guy you speak of? I didn't see him the other night. He was fired during the Bears game and was nowhere to be found against the Chickens. Yep. Yeah, I think that question probably has to be asked is like, where was Tonjes? Where was Tonjes? today was kind of weird because it's the conference call and you got to unmute and hit *6 to unmute and remute and all these things. So I just let other people ask the questions. I'm sitting on that same call, but I didn't ask any questions today. If we are in person, I'll ask questions. I'll ask multiple questions, but I hit *6, jump in over all these other people. I just let the other people ask questions today, but I probably should have asked that one because I was hoping that one would have been asked. Where was Tonjes? Tonjes is not just a good receiver. Tonjes is an awesome receiver. And you need receivers, especially really good ones. And he's really good. So they got to get him on the field in Philly. There's no question about that. That's a great one, J-Lo. All right, we got this one from Harry Johnson. Yes. Wish we could see Anderson and Valdez over Kalia Davis. That's not going to happen. Kalia is going to play over those guys. But I kind of agree with you. I'd like to see maybe them find an extra roster spot and put an extra defensive lineman and promote. I'd say Valdez because it's a passing game. Now, Anderson's the guy you put in there if you really don't think you can stop the run. So if you think that you're not going to be able to stop the run this week, maybe you do go Anderson just to try to plug the holes. But then he plugs the inside holes, but he doesn't give you a lot of movement as far as against the run. He's not going to give you any pass rush. So, what do? You go, I would love to see both those guys up. I personally think Valdez at this point would be potentially a really good wild card. Why? Because he plays really hard and he's got to be fresh. He's fresh. And this kid plays hard and he's smart. So I like that idea, actually. I really do. I don't know if I would put them over Kalia, but maybe try to create go one short in another area. And, do you really need – I think Correndo's been up a lot of these weeks. Do you really need Correndo to be up? Probably not. Do you really need Jordan James to be up if you're not going to use him ever? Probably not. You may want to go with an extra D lineman and maybe, at the expense of a couple of these offensive players. I can agree with that. Dale says, Larry, is it true Pearsall declared himself out for the Hawks game, as in he said he can't go, not the Traders? I don't know. I don't want to get involved in that either, by the way. I don't want to get involved in, who is he out? Is he not out? If he's out, he's out because he's hurt. I'm not even going to question whether he's hurt. He's hurt. The question is, he gets hurt a lot. It's not – I'm not going to question whether he was hurt. Now we're saying he didn't want to play in the biggest game of the year. I'm not going to say that. Come on. That's ridiculous. If anybody who is saying that, I think that's too reckless. That's without any – I don't know. That's just, to me, that's not fair. But it is fair to notice that he's been out a lot. I would never say he's janking it, but it's the fact that he's out a lot alone is a problem. And you know what? It can be, here's the other thing about that. It can be out of the athlete's hands. Jesse Sapolu missed 2 whole years at the beginning of his career and then came back and went to multiple Pro Bowls as an interior offensive lineman because he had an injury that he just happened to have injuries back-to-back years at the start of his career, but then became remarkably durable throughout the bulk of his career and became a very, very good player. And I could see the same with Ricky. He's been very hurt here in the first couple of years, but I could see him getting healthy and being a productive player because he has been productive when he's in there. It's not a matter of can he play or not play. He can play. I think we all know he can play. It's a matter of can he stay healthy? And if he can't stay healthy, what do you do? What do you do? Because you can't stay with the guy forever that just can't stay healthy. That's that. And what do you do? Do you trade him? Do you, I don't know. I don't know what to do. They're not going to give him a second contract if he can't stay healthy. So he's going to, at some point, he's going to have to show that he's going to stay healthy. Thomas Selman says, so everyone on defense is hurt. LOL. Yeah, basically. Basically, the 49ers, I'm rooting for them and I'm hoping for them. But unless they dial up a 20, 24 to 28 point effort offensively against a really good Eagles defense on the road in cold weather with all their fans howling. Unless the Niners can put up 28 in their place, I think they're going home. I think it's going to be one and done. That's how I see it. I'm straight with my audience. I'm rooting for them. I'll be there. We'll get on the bird, and we'll, we will endure the idiocy of the Philly fans, and we will have a good time, and we will cover it. We'll do lots of videos. We'll do live streams from the link. We will be there Friday through Monday, and we'll be hanging out. We'll cover this thing, top to bottom. We'll have an amazing post-game show after the game, win or lose. So it's going to be good. We're going to have a lot of fun. But, it's going to be tough. I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, yeah, they got a great shot. They got a great shot if Brock Purdy and Kyle Shanahan can dial up 28 points. If you've got 4 touchdowns in you, you know what? You got a shot. Because then it's anybody's. Because I don't think the Niners defense will somehow, Salah will get something together. They're well coordinated enough. They try hard enough. There's enough ethic there. There's enough athletes there. They'll get through this thing, but they were going to have a hard time stopping Dallas Goedert. They're going to have a hard time, and he's not 100%. They're going to have a hard time stopping this run game with Saquon Barkley. They're going to have a hard time stopping Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown. They're just going to have a hard time stopping a run game that includes Jalen Hurts being 5th in the NFL among quarterbacks and rush yards. He is a really good runner. You have a hard time dealing with him. So Niners are going to, I think, have to get a lead. They're going to have to get a lead and hold on. I think they could win this game the same way they beat the Rams in Week 5. They got a lead against the Rams, and then the Rams came roaring back, and the Niners held on. They did just enough to win, and that's the Niners' ticket here. They're not going to fall down 17-0 on the road in Philly and be like, oh, here it comes. No, not going to happen. They're going to have to get up in this game. They're going to have to get up 10. They're going to have to get up a couple scores. And then their defense can fly around a little bit. Then, suddenly it's you're a turnover away. The Niners they were -1 in turnovers against Seattle. They're going to have to be +1. At least +1. I don't think they can do it well, they definitely can't do it minus. I don't think they can do it even. I really don't. I think they got to be +1. If they're +1, they got a shot. They got a real shot. If they're +2, they got a great shot. I mean, it's that simple. Punch out the football. David Esger. Why not start Jalen Graham? Well, I think exactly. I probably would. Take your chances. He's young. He's fast. He's a great kid. He's on the roster. He knows the defense. Yeah, it's Jalen Graham time. He was good at Purdue. Played kind of a hybrid safety linebacker role, but he was good there. Dale, what can we get for Bosa in the offseason? That's a good question. We take the right team. I would say you're probably going to get no more than a late 1. I do think you can get a 1 for Bosa. But I think it's probably going to be a late 1. So yeah, if all of a sudden New England calls you at the end of the first round, and here's the thing about this. I'm not against trading anybody, I really am not. But the thought on that is this. There's a failure rate to the draft, okay? So there's a failure rate. So I would always, when trading a veteran player for a draft pick, I want multiple draft picks. Now, they don't have to be great picks, but I want multiple picks. I want to bring in two guys into the building for the one guy that just left, because the one guy that just left I know can play and play at a super high level. So I want multiple picks. And if I have a great player like a Bosa, I want multiple good picks. If New England called and said, "Hey, we'll give you the 30th pick in the first round," okay, yeah, I'd like one other pick in addition to that. But if they offered that, I would do it. I would do it. I love Nick Bosa, but this team needs to rebuild this defensive front around a lot of talent. They need numbers up front. But you better the other thing about trading for draft picks, if you trade for draft picks, the bigger thing is who's making the picks and who are they picking? Are they picking good players? Do you have players in mind that you want, or is it just like, we're getting picks and we're just, it's like if you still hit 50% of the time and miss 50% of the time, then what if you miss? You can't trade Nick Bosa and miss. You're trading a difference-making guy. There's also a rule on that a lot of scouts that I know believe in, which is anybody who commands a double team on your front seven, you never trade. And that would mean you would never trade Nick Bosa because he commands a double team at times on your front four. So that's just something to think about. It's great to have depth and everything, but you gotta, when push comes to shove, you gotta have those special difference-making players that other teams have to double. And if you have one guy like that in a defensive line, man, you got something. And if you got two guys like that on a defensive line, you're really, really hard to block. And that's really what's going on right now in Seattle. I mean, the most underrated move that the Seahawks made by far was getting Leonard Williams, because Leonard Williams was a great player at SC. And then, he's a very scheme versatile badass up front. You can line him up anywhere, and they do. And then they drafted Byron Murphy as well. And Murphy is just a 320-pound guy who can move incredibly well. So now you got two guys in the middle there that are just really kind of freaky. And then you've got DeMarcus Lawrence, who, when put on a line with these guys, he's pretty good. Now, he can't do it by himself, but he doesn't have to. They have Derek Hall. They have Boye Mafe. They have Nwosu. They've got other guys. But it's really Leonard Williams, Byron Murphy on the same line. And then you've got DeMarcus Lawrence at times looking like a guy who's, that he was 3 years ago when he was just incredible. So that makes them very special. And then on that second level, they're second level defenders. What's the key to having great second level defenders in 2025? They got to be able to run. Ernest Jones and Drake Thomas, Tyrese Knight, Nick Emenwari, the guys that sometimes play on that second, they can run. They're all really fast. Drake Thomas was right there. Yes, did the ball go off of CMC's hands? Yeah, but guess who was blanketing him? Drake Thomas. He was right there. So that was an astute pickup by John Schneider. I think he was with the Raiders. Drake Thomas is thriving in Seattle. And so is Ernest Jones. They had Jerome Baker. They had Terrell Dodson. Their linebackers stunk. McDonald was tired of it, traded them away, cut them. Dodson was like, I thought I was playing pretty well. He was cut. They went to Ernest Jones, and they promoted Tyrese Knight. This year, they came up with Drake Thomas. They've got three linebackers there that are healthy and can run, and they're young. And then they've got a secondary, Julian Love. They didn't even have Kobe Bryant this game, but they came up with this kid, Josh Jobe. They've got Reek Woolman, who's a jumbo corner. Witherspoon's their number one corner. He was the high number one pick, blue chipper. Julian Love's a star. And against the Niners, he plays like he's a Hall of Famer. The former New York Giant. They have Kobe Bryant, the former Thorpe Award winner at free safety. They got three levels of defense. They're really good. They're really good. I didn't see Seattle coming, but man, they're coming. And when they're this good, they can win with Sam Darnold, a pretty sketchy offensive line, and one real good receiver. That's what they got. They got JSN. They got Darnold is kind of hot and cold. His confidence isn't great. Their O-line's just kind of It's got some talent, but it's nothing major, nothing incredible. But they, that kid they picked up, that Robbie Utsis or whatever, Oots, the fullback, he's a mismatch. He's a 270-pound hammer. And then Walker Canine's got speed, and Charbonnet is kind of a bulldozer. And then A.J. Barner came out of nowhere. Saubert was here. We know what he is. He's just a backup type guy. Their line, as I said, it's pretty good. I mean, Anthony Bradford can look really bad on some snaps, and he can dominate on some snaps. Zabel was a great pick at left guard, so they're pretty solid there. That was a good pickup, getting Gray Zabel to play left guard because he stepped in and gave them real continuity. He played like a veteran right away. And, Charles Cross is out, but Josh Jones played the other night. There was a lot of talk. Oh, they're gonna face Amari Kite. It wasn't Amari Kite. It was Josh Jones. So, Seattle's pretty good. Cooper Kupp's old, but Rashid Shaheed gives them a nice return guy. JSN is almost those deep cuts to the sideline. Darnold, that's their go-to. When they need something, man, they can go 17 to 25 yards. Darnold on a rope to JSN. And Darnold's got the kind of arm talent, and JSN's got the kind of route running ability and explosiveness that good luck covering that. Good luck covering that. Really, really good receiver with a sharp cut to the outside, 18 to 22 yards down the field. And here comes the ball in rhythm from Darnold, just a rope. He's throwing that pass with a lot of confidence. That's their go-to. That might be enough to win them the Super Bowl. It's unbelievable, but it's possible. This defense, their special teams, and Darnold ripping that 20-yard out to JSN, who's just really, really good. So Seattle looked good. The Niners did not look good. The Niners' chances are not great. I mean, let's just be completely, I don't. I'm rooting for them. We'll be backing them. We're fired up to go to Philly, but their chances are not great. Boxing fan, how would you see Anthony Hill along with either A.J. Halsey or Dylan Thieneman on this defense? I like all those guys that you just mentioned. Hill's a hyperactive linebacker, probably one of the safest picks in the upcoming draft out of Texas. He's 6'3", he's 235. He can go forward, he can go backward. He's a star. He's tremendous. Halsey, I really love because he's violent. He's a big-time hitter. Thieneman he's a little bit more boomer bust. I mean, I got to see what his measurables look like. To me, at times he looks stiff. Other times he looks like, John Lynch, reincarnate. So what is he? Is he going to have a John Lynch type Hall of Fame career? If so, maybe Thieneman might be a good third-round pick. And you might be able to get him there. Halsey, I think, is going to go sooner. He's big, athletic. He's a hitter, man. That is a tempo-setting safety right there. A.J. Halsey, LSU. Go check him out. One of my favorite safeties in the draft. The only Flav, guys, we just need this group of practice squad players and other teams' rejects to get a couple turnovers. It's not that hard. The reality of that. B. Kirsch, Philly's offense has been off for a while. Their defense is top tier, going to have to be an offense-led postseason. We know the impossible. No, easy, no. It's not impossible. It's not impossible. But it's going to be tough. I think that's fair. Dale says, we have to trade chips really other than Mack and Bosa, right? There isn't anyone else that gives us draft position. Also, we have to trade back, don't we? I think trading back is generally the smart thing, unless there is that player that you just really think is special, that you think should have gone in the top 10 and just didn't because of circumstance, and you're sitting there at 28 or wherever the Niners are and going, okay, this guy should have gone 10, but I thought Walter Nolan was that player last year. I thought Jedi Barron was that player. Didn't he go in the teens? So we'll see. We'll see. They just, more than anything, they just need to hit wherever they pick. You just got to hit. You got to hit. You got to find some great players. Why did Detroit kind of have that little resurgence? Because they had a 3-year run of drafting great players. Brian Branch, Panay Sewell, Aiden Hutchinson, Ragnow, and all these different guys that they had. And all of a sudden, it was like, whoa, look at Detroit. And then Jahmyr Gibbs, Jack Campbell. And, that's how they got good. It was like all these people talking about Dan Campbell. Oh, Dan Campbell's amazing. No, it was Ben Johnson, and it was the general manager there, Brad Holmes. Brad Holmes, who worked with Charlie Army and those Rams personnel guys in the 90s, late 90s with Vermeil and those guys in St. Louis. Brad Holmes, he's the guy. But yeah, they'll get a good pick or two for Mac if they want to move him. The question is, do they want to move him? You might want to keep him based on how this year went. JC says, can't get over Ricky sitting out a Saturday night game, but could go if it was Sunday. Not our culture. Trade ASAP. We are in trouble without Tatum. Yeah, I kind of agree with all of that. Ricky Williams, off topic, Krug, but if I'm the Ravens owner, I go out and outbid the Niners for Saleh. It's a match made in heaven. Probably win a chip in year one as well. Yeah, if I'm Saleh, that's the kind of job I'm looking for. But here's the question. Is John Harbaugh going to retire? I don't think Saleh's not leaving the Niners to be a defensive coordinator of the Ravens. I don't think he can, and I don't think he would. But if they give him the head coaching job, if John Harbaugh retires, John Harbaugh looks a little like this is like coming to an end. I don't know. There's something about his vibe seems kind of like he's lost his fastball. I don't know. He's a great football coach. He really was for a lot of years. David Butler says, Larry, thank you for your great content all season. Thank you, man. Thanks for supporting us. We appreciate that. And by the way, Claudaddy Arcades is our primary sponsor for our trip to Philly. But if there is anybody out there that would like to, we're looking for 1 or 2 additional sponsors because we do have some exorbitant travel costs. So if there's anybody who would like to sponsor the Krug Show during our trip to Philly, in addition to Claudaddy Arcades, just DM me or contact me some way, and we'll talk it out and see if you have a product. We hit about 3 million views a month on YouTube and all the social media that we're doing. So that's basically what you can expect. But yeah, if you have a company you'd like to sponsor our trip to Philly, we're looking for 1 or 2 sponsors between now and the end of the week. And we appreciate everybody who reaches out because lots of people have and have been very supportive, and that's how this channel has grown through the years. So Ricky Williams, if Saleh leaves, who replaces him? I would guess Gus Bradley. I talked to Gus Bradley a few times. Gus Bradley has been a head coach in the NFL. Gus Bradley easily could replace Robert Saleh and be an incredible defensive coordinator. You could make an argument that Gus Bradley's overqualified to be anybody's defensive coordinator at this point. But yeah, that would be a great hire. And I think that's probably why Gus Bradley's here this year, is because they know what they have in Robert Saleh. They know that Saleh is going to be highly coveted. And it's partly because Saleh's a great coach, but it's also partly because Shanahan's scheme is the predominant scheme of choice for offensive football in the sport right now. So people want Shanahan tree coaches. They want Shanahan disciples. They want people that run this system. And so Saleh has good relationships with many of the guys that are kind of in this system. So if you want like a 2-for-1, that's what you get with Robert Saleh. He gives you a great defensive coach, but you also get a guy who is likely to be able to attract a Shanahan-type disciple to run your offense. So that's why he's going to be so coveted. So I would imagine, I've heard the Raiders badly want him. I've heard other teams want him as well. I could see him in Tennessee. I could see him in a number of spots. The question is, if you're Robert Saleh, let's say Mark Davis comes calling. You're only going to get 1 more shot to be a head coach, right? You already failed with the Jets, and whether it was your fault or not, I don't think it was his fault. But you're not going to get a 3rd shot or a 4th shot, I don't think. So you better make this one count. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know that I would go to the Raiders and all the dysfunction and all the, they've got, I'm sure, just levels of crap there that have to be cleared through. You don't get to where they're at overnight. And you're really going to leave a great situation here where you may win a ring and may be able to call your shots in a much better situation with a much better, more solid winning organization and not have to rebuild a losing organization from the ground up, while maybe the owner or some of the people in the higher up jobs are actually some of the problem people. It's like, it's difficult. I don't think if I was Robert Saleh, I would definitely, he's got a big family and everything. If I was him, I would definitely go to the Raiders. I just want that big deal. I want that big deal. And what I would want more than anything is, you haven't had stability here, right? If you want me here and you're going to sign me to a deal, it's not going to be one of these, 5-year deals, but, you guys have a second year out and I'm not doing that. I don't want to uproot all that. I would almost want one of those college football buyouts. Like, hey, you know what? Give me a 5-year deal. And then if you buy me out inside of that 5-year window, you're paying me $12 million, whatever it is, some jumbo amount of money, just so you have, these organizations that change coaches and general managers like they change their T-shirt. That's part of the losing. That's part of why you're losing. Who's been the team on top in the NFL? Kansas City. What does Kansas City have? Continuity. Andy Reid, Dave Taub, Steve Spagnuolo. Same coaches, same coordinators. They're not changing. They're just evolving and getting better and better and better. Now, at some point, you get older and you start to decline and your players get older. Kansas City's experiencing that right now. But continuity generally is what makes you a really good football team, especially offensively. And on special teams where there's lots of planning and knowledge and organizational knowledge. And this is how we do things. This is how we coach it. This is how these are our processes. These are the players we're looking for. They get this thing down to a science where every time the Raiders go hire a new GM and a new coach, it's like whole new deal, new sets of eyes, new opinions, new schemes, new this. And you're going to try to compete 4 months from now with a organization that's got the same OC, the same special teams coordinator, the same defense coordinator, same quarterback. It's just very, very difficult. Very, very difficult to keep changing everything. You have to have some continuity, typically on your staff. It's an awful lot to ask your players to learn all these new schemes. Now, it's not impossible. We see a lot of first-year coaches do really, really well, including Ben Johnson this year. So it's not impossible. You better get the right guy, and you better get a teacher. He better have his culture, and he better be able to kind of implement his culture beyond your loserdom. So all that is to say, hey, Robert Saleh, beware. Beware of the Raiders. Lyle Bolliard should have signed Greenlaw and Hufanga back. Big mistake. Well, I'll go 50-50 on that. Hufanga, I think, watching the way he's played this year, God, your defense would have been better with him. There's no doubt about that. He's played at a really high level. He's a really smart football player. But he's kind of an in-the-box player. He's not a down-the-field player. He's not a great coverage player. And then he's had some injuries, and they had other guys. And so they moved on because of the roster depth they had built at that position. They didn't want to pay him a big contract. But, Huff's when he's healthy and playing really, really well, he's a championship caliber safety. He plays way faster than his time speed because he knows how to play. He knows where to be. He's in his film. He knows his tendencies. One of the smartest players in the league. And he's had a great year in Denver, and their defense is awesome. And he's a big part of that. Greenlaw, on the other hand, as much as I love Dre Greenlaw, and he's a culture player, and I probably would have signed him, but I think ultimately they made the right move to go younger. It's just there's only so many collisions that these bodies can take, and he was hurt a lot this year. He missed a lot of time. It's just, I would have loved to have kept him, but in a capped sport with his money going up, it's a tough thing to say pay a guy who gets hurt as much as this guy gets hurt with the myriad of different injuries he's had. It's not like it's one thing; it's a number of things. So I think that's a factor, and I think ultimately they probably made the right call. Even though I love Dre Greenlaw, and I thought he's such a culture player, such a difference maker that man, I really didn't want to see him go. But I do understand why they went in a younger direction. The bottom line is though, they used to have Azeez Al-Shaair as their third guy behind Warner and Greenlaw. And now they've got Garrett Wallow and Eric Kendricks and Jalen Graham. And it's like they badly, in addition to an offensive tackle, a defensive end, a defensive tackle that can really rush the passer on the interior, a big-time coverage safety with some size and length. They need a bunch of things, but they really need to rebuild this linebacking core. They really across the board. They need more and better linebackers. There's no question. I would continue to go young. If there's an evolution of the position where the bodies keep getting smaller and lighter. I mean, you just saw the kid that just made the interception for Seattle. He was amazing. What the heck was his name? Drake Wilson? The guy with that or Drake Thomas? Drake Thomas? That was a great pick. That kid is small. I mean, let me look at it. Drake Thomas. He's 5'11". Well, he's roughly 230. But he's a bulked up 230. This guy's like basically a 5'11", 220, 220-pound linebacker running around out there. That he would have been considered too small in previous eras. But now he's got so much speed and instincts. A guy like that is exactly what you're looking for as a second-level defender. And Seattle's now got such speed on the second level combined with really, really high-end players in their secondary and some real monsters up front. I mean, their two tackles are just absolute beasts. They might be able to ride into a Super Bowl. Can't believe I'm saying that. Dale says, we can't get a stop on 3rd and 17, not stopping Barkley. Well, that was last week. Let's talk about next week. Why do we got to talk about the past? I hear what you're saying. It's going to be a huge challenge for the 49ers to stop Saquon Barkley. Huge challenge. Behind that line, and then you factor in that Hurts also has to be accounted for in the run game, and that requires, more spacing. And can they guess right all day? Probably not. And then there's probably going to be a long run. I mean, the most disturbing part about the Niners' defensive effort in this game was that Seattle ran for 100 yards on their first dozen carries. They were averaging 8 yards a pop. You're going 1st and 10. Here comes K9. It's 2nd and 2. You can't play defense like that. You can't play defense 1st and 10, 2nd and 2. That's chaos. Any defensive coordinator will tell you that's chaos. Because 2nd and 2, they could go up top on 2nd and 2. You have no down and distance indicator on 2nd and 2. They could go up top. I would go up top. Impatient offensive coordinators will go up top. But teams that want to just beat you down will just say, you know what? Let's not go up top. We'll just take the first down and stay on the field. And we'll just drive down the field and we'll win the time of possession. The time of possession at the half was like 20-8 or something like that. It was totally dominant. And this 49er defense, this Seattle defense is really, really good, but it's really great when they dominate the time of possession like they did Saturday night. If you're going to lose time of possession to a Seattle defense that's number 2 in the league by 12 minutes or whatever, they're going to be awesome. And they were. And, the Niners' 3 points reflected their awesomeness. Mendez says, should the Niners have hired Jonathan Gannon as their defensive coordinator if Saleh leaves? I like Jonathan Gannon, by the way. He got fired today. The kind of interesting thing about today was that a lot of coaches were fired by GMs that haven't done anything. It's not like the GM was great or like these teams are fired because they have awesome talented rosters that just didn't fulfill their potential. Is Arizona that awesome? Is Cleveland that awesome? Are the Raiders, these teams that awesome? These GMs all retain their jobs. thought some of these GMs probably should have been fired along with those head coaches. But no, I like Gus Bradley. I'd rather have Gus Bradley than Jonathan Gannon. Reb559, don't lose faith. All right. Hey, easy. Wow. Okay. You must be faithful. Just, somebody asked me the other day, would I rather trade Mac Jones or keep Mac Jones? Well, this year was unique because I think Brock Purdy is going to be able to stay healthy more in the future. I think because Mac Jones has some control over his own future, he probably wants to start if there's a starting job available. And that's probably what he's going to say to the Niners. Hey, look, if there's a starting job available and that you like the deal, because, otherwise bring him back for one more year. I'm this idea that you're going to trade him for like a third-round pick, no way. If you hold him next year and you don't trade him, you get a third-round pick when he leaves the year after. So there's no way. Why would I trade something for a third-round pick when I get a third-round pick if I keep him? So I'd rather keep him and get that third-round pick in a year than trade him for a third-round pick. If you're trading him maybe for a late first or an early second. Who needs him? If Stafford retires, the Rams need him. I don't think that's going to happen. But there's a bunch of teams. The Raiders could definitely use him. Who's the Steelers quarterback in the future? There's a number of teams. Obviously, the bad teams. The Jets badly need a quarterback. But there's going to be a bunch of other teams that kind of look at their situation and go, you know what, we need quarterbacks. And I like Fernando Mendoza, but if you just said the quarterback draft, I don't know. The rest of this quarterback draft class, I think Ty Simpson is going back, right? Dante Moore. Dante Moore is a talented guy, but I haven't seen enough of Dante Moore to make me think, yeah, he's an NFL star. Garrett Nussmeier. I went to LSU, Florida. If anybody takes Garrett Nussmeier thinking he's a star, that's a mistake. He's not a star. Or let's just say this: LSU's offense was pretty weak. Pretty weak. They could not score. He's had 12 touchdowns this year and 5 picks. There's John Mateer from Oklahoma. Not a huge fan. Carson Beck's got a big frame and completed a high percentage this year at Miami, but he also makes mistakes. And sometimes he looks really kind of like the game's not coming to him. Like he doesn't grasp the game. Sometimes he loses a count of defenders. I see him driving it into double coverage. There's times he looks a little confused, which is odd because he's played a lot of football. But he definitely has the NFL. That is an NFL frame. He's 6'4". He's 220. He's pretty athletic. He's got a loose arm. He can really hum it to the sideline. I think Carson Beck, I would definitely be interested in Carson Beck. The guy that's really interesting is Trinidad Chambliss, who's got Ole Miss, just got Ole Miss past Georgia in the playoff. He's only about 6 feet tall, but what a year. This might be the hottest quarterback in all of college football right now. 21 touchdowns, 3 picks. He's making plays. The way Chambliss is playing right now, you got to take another deep dive on that film and see if he's an NFL prospect because he looks good. Now, he is short, but he can run. He's athletic. He can hum it. He's playing really good football right now. So, and there's other guys. There's Klubnik from Clemson. There's Drew Aller from Penn State. I don't know who else is going to be in this draft, but it's not a special, like who do I like? I like Mendoza. I like Mendoza, a little bit like Carson Beck. Chambliss is kind of intriguing, but this overall is a pretty lame quarterback class. So if you're the 49ers, there might be 5 or 6 teams out there that need a quarterback, and you might be able to get something decent for Mac Jones. Now, the question is he worth more to keep? Or do you do you trade him away and get that high second-round pick? All I got to say is, man, you better have a good quarterback room. I'd be interested to know do they love Rourke? Do they like Rourke? I know they really like Adrian Martinez, and they brought him back. But what's his ceiling? I'm not really sure. So we got to kind of see where they're at quarterback-wise. M. Bayless says, can John Lynch be trusted with another draft? They got to hit. I think there was enough good in this last draft to absolutely trust him with another draft, but I just think that they ought to streamline their process. It's all about process, okay? You hear teams go, well, we had a good process. Okay, let's talk about your process. You have coaches involved. You have Shanahan involved. Shanahan's the boss. So if he's involved, it's like people are, I'm sure, afraid to go against him. Why? Because people like, I don't know, to keep their job. So I don't know if it's really advantageous to have Shanahan involved in every single personnel decision. I would make the coaches less involved. I would listen more to the scouts. And then if I were Jed, I would spend the $500,000 to go hire a draft consultant from the outside to join their room. Pay John Dorsey $500,000. Pay Scott McCloughan $250,000. Use some of that unbelievable amounts of revenue that the league produces to go get another set of eyes that doesn't already see. What happens is continuity is a good thing on the coaching staff. It's a good thing in organizations. It's a good thing across the board. But what happens? There's a downside. Everybody knows everybody's secrets. Everybody knows the score. Sometimes it's better to not know the score. Sometimes the score makes you take a player you shouldn't take, or listen to a coach you shouldn't listen to, or listen to a coordinator you shouldn't listen to, or you got to streamline this. You got to hit on these picks. You're not hitting at a high enough rate to just say, hey, our process is unassailable. No, you're not hitting at a high enough rate. You've missed 20 times in the first 3 rounds. You've missed 10 times in the third round alone. Your process is not unassailable. Your process is not without honing. And what I would do if I was Jed is I would let Lynch and Shanahan run their deal, but I would want to emphasize that I want it to be more of the scouts and the personnel department and a little bit less of the analytics team and a little bit less of the coaching staff. I want the scouts and the personnel evaluators, their opinions to push forward, and I want the other people to just have a slighter impact on it. And at the same time, I want to take some of that money and I want to pay a McCloughan, a John Dorsey, somebody who's watching closely. So maybe, a Jim Nagy or somebody who's got an independent opinion outside your building to welcome them in after the season between then and the draft as a consultant to kind of, I'm not saying to second guess your guys, but to put another independent voice in the room with credibility. That can only be a positive. Go get, I would go get John Dorsey. Now, John Dorsey's probably a pain in the ass. But, he went to Kansas City, and what happened? They wound up with Mahomes. And they had a really nice run. Then he left, probably because they don't like him. He went to Detroit. Detroit's been hitting. Brad Holmes has been hitting. John Dorsey was a big part of them. Drafting Jahmyr Gibbs. That was against the grain. That was not a popular pick in the scouting community. But John Dorsey had that vision of Jahmyr Gibbs. It was like, Jahmyr Gibbs. So they went for Jahmyr Gibbs. Jahmyr Gibbs, outside of Christian McCaffrey, might be the best weapon in the game. He's in Detroit because of John Dorsey. So all I'm saying is go get somebody like that. It's not second-guessing Lynch. Lynch has the final say. But bring somebody else into that room who can impact their opinions and who can challenge their opinions and create more consensus and a better. The key is you got to hit, man. You got to hit. To me, if I was looking at this thing, I think there's so many hits available on day 3 that I would definitely push for more picks on day 3. Because look at the Niners drafts. They've hit on all kinds of guys on day 3. Lynch and Shanahan are still here employed by the Niners because of a day 3 pick. They have really kicked ass on day 3. That's when your scouts come alive. So I'm not ready to just kind of throw away their whole process, But I think it needs to be, it's not unassailable. It's not like, oh, no, leave us alone over here. No, screw you and leave you alone. You missed 10 times in the third round. You've missed 19 times in the first 3 rounds in 9 drafts. That's too much. No, your process needs to be honed. Your process needs to be streamlined. Maybe you're listening too much to your coaches. Maybe you're listening too much to Kyle. Go back and do a research. You guys know your situation. You know who pounded the table for – somebody pounded the table for Dante Pettis. Somebody pounded the table for Jalen Hurd. Somebody said we need to trade up in the third round for C.J. Beathard. Take account of that. They should know they should have their own organization scouted to a T, which is also why you need you need an outside influence, because you need somebody who wasn't there for all that crap and doesn't have all that institutional knowledge, because after a while it starts to break you down and it starts to take you down roads you shouldn't go down. It's like, no, break all that apart and let's get right to the players. Find somebody who has some personnel conviction and go after guys. And when you've decided that you don't have any more needs, you're wrong. You have more needs. When you've decided you have no more needs and you can draft a punter, you're wrong. When you've decided you have no more needs and you can draft a kicker, you're wrong. You have more needs. If you ever feel like we just need a little scat back, you're wrong. You need more offensive linemen, more defensive linemen, more edge rushers, more linebackers with speed, more corners with length, more safeties who can hit. I mean, that more. And if you add more in each position, guess what happens? You go to camp, you have these great competitions, and you just wind up with a better roster. The old Harbaugh, iron strength sharpens iron. Boxing fans, who's a realistic wide receiver they could target in the draft? Well, I wasn't thinking of this as a draft show, but I mean, I will say this, there's a lot of great ones, right? Carnell Tate from Ohio State is going to go in the top 10 for sure. He's a star. He's a great player. Ohio State's coaching it well. This guy's awesome. He might not even be the best wide receiver on his team, but he's one of the best wide receivers in this draft. And then Mekhi Lemon from SC is freaky. He's a lot like an Amon-Ra. He's just super productive, double-digit touchdowns, 1,100 yards. And this guy produced. Like nobody else. This is like the Amon-Ra St. Brown, 5'11", 195. Very safe pick, going to be a mid-first round pick. That would be a good pick because he's a hell of a player. He's a little diminutive. He needs to get stronger, but, I mean, big-time playmaker. Then there's Jordan Tyson from ASU, bigger-bodied guy, really good football player as well, very smooth. There's Denzel Boston from UW. I like those guys. Casey Concepcion is a favorite of mine from A&M. Really like him. Chris Bell, I really liked until he tore, I think, the ACL the other day. So now he's probably going to be more of like a day 3 sleeper. He was thought to be like a second-round pick, the Louisville receiver. He's kind of reminds me of Terrell Owens. He's 6'2", he's 220, he's ripped, he's a big-time player. He had 72 catches this year, super productive, but now he's torn up the knee. So you gotta reassess, and he's back in the pack now. I mean, he's gonna be a value. He's gonna be a value play, but he might not play as a rookie. So that's a guy to look for. Late on day 2 or early on day 3. But he's projected to go like late first, early second, and then he tore up the knee. So, but I love Chris Bell from Louisville. Probably my favorite guy. I love Jeremy Bernard from Alabama. 6'1", 200 pounds, really slithery. Just a playmaker, man. Just an absolute playmaker. Love him. Zachariah Branch from Georgia is a burner. I mean, we're talking about 5'10", 180, but I mean, this guy can fly. I mean, he is your home run hitter. You want a home run hitter? Zachariah Branch, Georgia. But he's 5'10" and 180 pounds. I really like Deion Burks from Oklahoma. Also 5'9", 190. Really good player. I think he's going to be a better pro than he was in college. And then there's also guys for the stopwatch you got to check out, like how fast is Malachi Fields? He's 6'4", 220. I loved him at Virginia. Then he transferred to Notre Dame. He was great at Notre Dame. This guy, he's a lot like JJ. He reminds me of Juwan Jennings. I mean, he, especially with Jennings maybe walking away this year, if you want a replacement for Jennings, there it is right there, Malachi Fields. He will go get the ball. He's tough. He's big, but the question is he's going to run a slow 40. So how slow? Is he Jennings slow? Because he had 36 catches and 5 touchdowns this year. He's a pretty good player. Then there's Trey Lance's brother, who's going to be in this draft as well. There's also a receiver, the receiver that I kind of like that nobody's radar is Ted Hurst from Georgia State, who's like 6'3", 190. In a lot of ways, he has this exact same build as Jerry Rice. Very similar build to Jerry Rice. Ted Hurst. Go look him up. Hurst. Go watch him. You'll love him. I love Ted Hurst. If I could, go with one particular player. I did a mock the other day. Let's see if I have it here. I did a mock the other day. Yeah, here it is. And did I have a receiver? Yeah, I had them taking Ted Hurst from Georgia State and Deion Burks. Oh, and I also like Cole Wilson, by the way, the Baylor receiver, who's just an absolute burner. You got to look at Cole Wilson. I'll share the screen on my. Kev will make fun of me for sharing the screen on this, but here it is. There's a mock draft that I did the other day, and receiver wise, this Ted Hurst, I think he would pick with number 127, Georgia State. Really, really good player. And then also Deion Burks from Oklahoma, I think is going to be a great pro. And then this Cole Wilson from Baylor is just so electric. I mean, he's just really, really, really fast. Like so fast, this guy is just, I don't know what he's going to run, but I bet you he runs like 4.33 or something like that. He's going to burn it up. And he is really exciting. Really exciting. Cole Wilson. He's undersized. He's probably going to be a late day 3 pick. But there you go. My latest creation of the mock draft. Boxing fan. So the boxing fan, there you go. That's what I would say realistic was. Lyle Bolliard says the Jets have multiple first rounders. Do you think they would trade one for Mac? Let me see, actually. See exactly where their other first round pick is. The Jets are going to pick 2, and then the Jets are going to pick 16 from Indy. Yeah, he went to the Jets. So yeah, I mean, no, they're not going to trade the 16th pick in the draft for Mac Jones. No, I don't think so. Now, what you may see is the 49ers, if let's say Mac wanted to play for the Jets, I can't imagine he does, but let's just say he did. And the Niners wanted that pick. I could see the Jets saying, "Hey, we'll trade down. We'll trade that pick from 16 into the 20 to 25 range, and then we'll give you that pick and whatever for Mac Jones." Something like that. They wouldn't give this. I doubt the Jets would trade the 16th pick in the draft for Mac Jones. That's just a little too rich. That's a little too rich. But you never know. You never know. And I definitely think Mac Jones is going to be highly coveted because the way he played this year warrants it. Played really, really well. Bottom line, played really, really well. Okay, so there you go. That's going to pretty much do it for us. We're back with you tonight on KNBR for Niners Nightly at 6:00, and then tonight at 8:30, we're streaming with the great Dieter. That's right, and we're headed to Philly at the end of the week, courtesy of Claw Daddy Arcades, and we're looking for an additional sponsor. So if you want to sponsor our trip to Philly, Kevin and I are going Friday. We'll be there Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. Just get a hold of me somehow, DM me or whatever, and we'll work it out. But thanks to all of you. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being the title sponsor of the Krug Show. Check them out. They're in Embryville. They're in Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out. And they do run out. So get there early, get some brisket chili. It always cracks me up. The people, I had a guy as I was coming to the game the other night, who just saw me, and all he said to me was "Pig and a Pickle." I'm like, bro, I have a name. I'm just joking, but he's like, "Yeah, Pig and a Pickle, man, Pig and a Pickle." It cracked me up because I'm like, this happens to me more than you would actually think, that people know Pig in a Pickle more than they know my name, which is crazy. Now my wife has not called me Pig in a Pickle, so I guess that's a good thing. But, but you never know. Give it time, it could happen. This the other day was unbelievable though. Somebody sent me this. Let me see if I have this on my phone. I don't know if I can call it up, but somebody sent me a video of their kid yelling Pig in a Pickle. I guess I can't call it on my phone. But either way, pretty fun. Thanks to Pig in a Pickle for being the title sponsor of the Krug Show. We love them. They've got a third location opening in Petaluma later on this year. Check it out. It's the best barbecue you're going to find. You're going to love it. Also, thanks to Sleeper. We're brought to you by Sleeper. This entire 49er football season is presented by Sleeper, the fastest growing fantasy platform in the world. It's a one-stop shop. You get blazing fast news. You get up-to-date daily fantasy. You get real-time stats, group chat. It's awesome. And Sleeper picks, of course, for daily fantasy. Use promo code Larry. Sleeper will match your first deposit up to $100. Links in the description, terms and conditions to apply. And thanks to Sleeper for being a proud sponsor of the Krug Show. And also thanks to our good friends at Habbas Law. You know, if you need a good attorney, call our friends at Habbas Law. They're outstanding. I can't say enough good things about them. Omar, Tarek, and the people at the Habbas Law team, 1-800-INJURED. They will fight to make it right. They're just there. You know, if you want to win, basically, it really comes down to that. You know, they're great PI attorneys. If you've been injured and you want to win, there's only one call to make, and that's 1-800-INJURED. Or you can visit them on the web, habbaslaw.com on the web, HABBAS law.com on the web. Habbas Law, they will fight to make it right. You know, I mentioned my late father was an attorney. My brother's a judge. My sister's an attorney. I do know that it's really valuable to have a really good attorney, especially especially if you're going up against insurance companies. They oftentimes will try to say, you know what, we're not paying you. But Habbas Law doesn't allow them to play that card. So they're great. So give them a call, 1-800-INJURED. They will fight to make it right. Once again, habbaslaw.com on the web. Thanks to Habbas Law for being a proud sponsor of the Krug Show. And thanks to all of you guys for supporting the Krug Show on YouTube. We'll see you tonight at 6 for Niners Nightly on the Sports Leader. Until then, peace.
Yeah, never met a man I've been scared.